Ryan, of course, it's not just decision time for class of 2023 recruits. Some are just putting out their list of top schools, and then they're going to decide in a month or so from now. Derrick LeBlanc, the latest to do that. He has a top 3 out now that, correct me if I'm wrong, Oklahoma, Florida, and Penn State for the 4-star defensive lineman. So where do things stand there? Penn State obviously competing against Florida and Oklahoma for a couple players in the cycle.
I think Penn State's a real contender here, and everybody keeps telling me that. This is kind of like Tamarian Parker, where everybody kept telling me, hey, man, they're a real player. They're a real player. Let's see what happens. And then even after it, hey, we feel good. We feel like we're in the mix here. So we'll see. July 28th, man, a whole month from now, anything can happen with this one. I think Penn State,
Right.
Oklahoma, I continue to hear that Oklahoma is Penn State's bigger competitor than Florida. But then I talked to a bunch of colleagues, and they keep telling me, hey, dude, he's been to Florida how many times? Look at all this, look at like that. We'll see. So there's a month to go on this one. I don't want to overthink it right now. I think Penn State is in the mix. I wouldn't be totally shocked if he did end up at Penn State. But with a whole month to go, anything can happen here, man. These coaches are going to be recruiting these guys incredibly hard, especially someone like Derrick LeBlanc, who's a top 100 prospect and really good defensive lineman who is coveted by a lot of different schools. So we will see. Florida, Oklahoma, Penn State seems to be the top 3, unless somebody comes in and gives us something to think about. But right now, if I was leaning towards a school, I'd probably lean towards Oklahoma over Florida. But I don't want to sleep on this one, man. Jakeem Jackson is going to be interesting here too, because I think there's a real chance that Jakeem Jackson and Derrick LeBlanc play together. They've talked about it before. They've been trying to do their whole commitments together. Of course, they were talking in October. Now they're moving up to July 28th. So getting a better read on Jakeem Jackson, who also Penn State's very interested in, may give us a better feel for Derrick LeBlanc and his situation. My thoughts with Jakeem were originally Florida, Tennessee, but Penn State seems to think they're in the mix with both of these guys. So let's see. But 4 weeks to go. Long way to go until we get a real answer there.
Yeah, it's a good time to remind everyone that it is the dead period right now. That means until July 27th, coaches cannot go on the road recruiting and prospects cannot come to campus. But that doesn't mean recruiting stops. It simply means it is all electronic at this point. So while the coaches will get some vacation and some downtime in over the next 29, 30 days or so, they will still spend plenty of their day, their week, their month recruiting, trying to make some of these decisions go Penn State's way, Ryan. As we sit here again, you talk about a couple of these guys. Some are announcing as soon as July 5. We have Tony Rojas in that boat. One guy's going to announce sooner than that. We'll talk about him in a second. You have Tamir Robinson in the middle of July. You have these two players, Jakeem Jackson and Derrick LeBlanc, at the end of the month. And I mean, it's June 28th. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like by this time next week, we're going to have probably another 5 or 6 players to add to the list of scheduled commitments watch list. Is that fair?
I thought you were going to say committed players. I was like, I hope not. Like, let's.
Oh yeah, no, let's no, let's not.
No, yeah, I would think so. I would think that we'll get a lot of commitment announcements here. Like everybody was all excited about LeBlanc yesterday. He's teasing some sort of announcement. I think you're going to see a lot of that here in the coming days of guys teasing you up like it's going to be a commitment, and then it's really just a top 3, and this is what I'm actually going to announce. The announcement before the announcement, as we like to call it. So yeah, I would think that is certainly realistic, but. We will see.
What's the word on King Mack at this point, Ryan? A very talented safety out of Florida, has officially visited Penn State, is teammates with Conrad Hussey, who's the Penn State safety commit, of course, another 4-star at St. Thomas Aquinas. King Mack has kind of been pretty quiet throughout this recruiting process. He doesn't do many interviews. He does not really elaborate a whole lot on where things are going with his recruitment, but it sounds like he could be ready to wrap things up sooner rather than later. On one hand, that probably is good news for Penn State. On the other hand, it feels like we've heard that before, and we've kind of been waiting on pins and needles for his commitment for, I don't know, a couple of weeks now, and maybe longer, and it so far hasn't happened. Longer. So where do things stand there? Yeah, much longer.
Yep. I mean, going back to, I don't know, the end of April, I'd say, is when it really, after Conrad committed, there wasn't a lot of talk that, hey, King Mack's leaning this way too. So it's to me, it's been about 2.5 months, maybe 3 months or so. I expected him to commit when he came up for his official visit. He did not do that. Then he went to Michigan State, he went to Michigan State before that. Michigan State is certainly in his year, but I think he's committing to Penn State, and I think he's going to commit tomorrow. King Mack has not put that out there. I've talked to enough people who have given me the impression that he is absolutely planning for this week. Maybe Wednesday it'll change, but Wednesday is certainly the date that I've been told to watch out for King Mack commitment. Don't have a whole lot more to add to it than that. Until the player puts it out there, I do think things could change, right? And I've heard multiple times on when a commitment could potentially come, but there seems to be enough people hinting that I need to be prepared for a King Mack commitment on Wednesday. So that's what I am doing behind the scenes. And whether that comes or not, I'm waiting for King to kind of put it out there. But Penn State seems to feel good. They seem to think that it's a matter of time until he commits. Now, I will say that Michigan State people are also continually hitting me up, suggesting that he's still talking to them and that there's some sort of relationship there. So I don't want to completely overthink it, but Penn State seems to think that he is going to end up here and going to end up here soon.
One thing to note about King Mack, I was just scrolling through his Twitter profile just to make sure I wasn't giving out any inaccurate information, but he's a big retweeter. He's not a big tweeter himself. And what I mean by that, if you're not aware, is that he will share a lot of messages, whether it's from teammates, whether it's from colleges, what have you, but he is not big on putting his own information out there. So, I mean, I wrote about this, I believe it was in a Saturday Six Pack over the weekend, but Penn State is going to benefit from any way a commitment happens, whether it comes out of the blue at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. with no set announcement date, no forewarning, no nothing, or if the player gives a whole month of notice and Penn State lands him. So they'll take him any way they can get him. I think all of us prefer the hype and build up and excitement of when you have an announcement date set, but there's some guys out there, and I think that there's obviously, Dakari Nelson was a little bit different. He gave about 16 hours notice, something like that he was going to pop, maybe a little bit more, maybe about 20. But, Tamarian Parker, to the best of my knowledge, did not have a date out. He just popped in and picked Penn State. So we'll see how it plays out. But certainly every player handles it differently. And some guys are just not really into the hype, not really into the process. They just want to put it out there, Ryan, and keep moving. And King Mack, to me, seemed like that kind of guy.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have a ton more to add because I haven't talked to him. So we can leave it at that, basically. But I expect good things, and I expect good things here soon. But it's recruiting. It's the end of June, and things are really fluid right now. So I don't ever want to put all my chips in on anything. But I am expecting him to announce somewhat soon, and I would expect it to be Penn State.
That's Ryan Snyder. This is the BWI Daily Recruiting Show. I'm Greg Pickel. We're moving along with the latest Penn State recruiting news as the Nittany Lions prepare for commitments. Obviously, hope to land some of those over the next couple of weeks and by at least the end of July. And also, of course, get ready for the 2022 season. So plenty going on, even though it is a dead period in the recruiting world. Ryan, I want to wrap things up here as we get close to our final thoughts segment with just you're going to have a story up, I'm sure, over the next couple of days here, whenever you can find a moment to break away from the news of everything, to look back at the month of June and some of your top things that you learned or highlights or impressions, but just off the cuff right now. I know you probably haven't put much thought into this, but to me, the biggest development of June was that Evan Link didn't make it to Michigan and only took an official visit to Stanford. And the fact that you were able to get a really in-depth interview with him at Blue White Illustrated told us a lot about his recruitment. And to me, that may have been the biggest development of the month of June for Penn State in a month where there were many of them. What comes to mind for you? Is it that, or is there something else that jumps out at you?
Well, we'll learn with Link here soon. I would hope that we're going to know. I would expect us to know Link's decision. I would think by July 10th. I think it would maybe come sooner than that. But yeah, I felt good coming out of that interview about where Penn State stands. It's always just, again, how important is academics? How important is football?
Right.
Everybody I seem to talk to seems to think football is very important. And if that's the case, you come to a school like Penn State where you'll get a top 20 engineering degree. You won't get the Stanford engineering degree, but you'll still get an excellent engineering degree, and you'll play the best football that you can possibly play. So we'll see out of that. Right. Developments with June. Yeah, you put me on the spot with this one. I think obviously the success down south is interesting with Dakari and Tamari and Parker and the relationship they've built there. I would love to learn more about NIL and some of the things that are happening behind the scenes. Nobody seems to really be talking about that, but it's just interesting. Dakari, Tamari, like there's a lot of guys here who maybe we didn't totally expect. Are there NIL fingers in those recruitments? I don't know, and I can't get anyone to talk about it. I've tried, guys. I've tried really hard, and it's not happening. Yeah. So I don't know what to do there. But hopefully someday we'll get a better feel. I would still say it's clearly Penn State has more work to do there, and it's never really done. But it's just interesting to me. I don't know for sure. Yazid Haynes is coming to whiteout camp and crushing it like he did, putting up some of those numbers that he did. That changed my outlook on that player, and of course, it changed Penn State's outlook too. Right? They immediately pretty much offered and took him there. So that's another highlight to me. And I think locking things up with Tony Rojas and Tammy Robinson. Maybe I'm jinxing it. I'll knock on wood for Penn State fans. Sorry if you guys feel like I jinxed you there, but I feel very good that they're going to get both of those players. And at one point, we were talking a lot about Miami and Vatek with Tamir, and of course Miami kind of fell off with Tony, but then the Georgia and Clemson. So locking. Again, I said locking it up. You guys are going to be mad at me if they don't end up here now. But putting Penn State in the pole position with those guys, I think was another massive development. Evan Link is still TBD. Jason Moore is still kind of TBD. Although that's another one where I'm starting to think Penn State leads, guys. And I didn't think I'd be saying that 25 days ago or whatever it was. So that's an interesting development. The one thing I keep hearing with Moore is just that Penn State didn't really initially want to host him by himself on that weekend. And now everybody keeps telling me that was just massive because he went to Notre Dame. There were 17 committed guys there. It kind of, I don't know the best way to describe it, but it just didn't get the attention, I guess.
It's crowded. There's no other way to put it. It's a crowded space, and there's a lot of attention that you need to give guys when you have 17 of them on campus. There's just no way around it.
Exactly. So we will see there. That's definitely not done, but I think we'll hear from Jason Moore soon. I think we'll hear from Evan Link soon, and it's going to be another massive month of July. So we will see. I feel like I'm just rambling here, so I'll end it. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, when we talk about NIL, don't forget Thomas Frank Carr on the BWI Daily on Monday, June 27th. Talk with Jason Belzer of Success with Honor Collective. So check that out. BlueWhiteIllustrated.com, YouTube.com/Blue White Illustrated, and wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google.